Okay, so for my second analysis, I chose a Word document. The Word document, again, comes from Project Lead the Way, and it falls under the same module. Again, the idea here, the premise here is that we're doing a puzzle design challenge. It's a 3D cube puzzle challenge, if you can picture that. And the PowerPoint was showing the students how to learn the modeling skills in Inventor. And the document here is sort of a design brief for those of you that are tech ed and are familiar. We give them a challenge. They are to, in this case, take 3/4 inch fall off blocks from a manufacturing process and reuse them for a novelty item that the company can sell. So they're challenged with modeling this puzzle and solving the idea of how to fit the pieces together to make it a fun novelty gift. So I analyzed this web doc or this document here. You can see it. It's pretty standard status quo. There's nothing unusual about it, nothing out of the ordinary. You can see there's no pictures, there's no charts or tables, there's no links, there's no nothing like that. So I guess you could argue that maybe I could have picked a document that had more of that stuff to analyze, but I can tell you that the analysis would be that the pictures need to have alternative text and that the charts need to have good links and alternative text and be able to read in the correct order with headings for the charts and the columns and that kind of stuff. So I went with the document that went along with the PowerPoint that I had chosen as well. So I had a standard package unit here. So I started with the first page of the accessibility handout or the handbook. It's sort of a quick reference sheet that's there. And, they start with headings, and you can see here that headings are well done. They recommend only using heading 1 once, and you can see throughout this would be, document 1, and this would be document 2. So heading 1 is only used once here. The headings then from there, headings 2 and headings 3 are repeated as necessary, but are done in a standard format. You can see bulleted lists are well done too. They're well organized. They're laid out, whether they be bulleted or they be numbered over here as they are in the procedures. And then they've also got some bullets underneath the numbers, and those are all standard indentation and standard laid out in a nice chronological order. Everything's done well there. You can say that there's sufficient color contrast. We've got black text on white paper. It doesn't get much more contrast than that. There is blue lettering here. You can see it. It stands out. It keeps the headings to stand out. There's no lettering, coloring changes that would emphasize any kind of emphasis on a point or a particular part of the document. So maybe you could have that. Maybe that would be an improvement. But again, just looking quickly at the quick guide sheet here, sufficient color contrast is there. I don't have any meaningful link text. I don't have any texts in there. I don't have any alternative text for images or anything like that. Again, this is part of a presentation, so if there's images, I could be providing that alternative text to go along with them in a synchronous class setting where I'm one-on-one with the kids versus an asynchronous setting where they'd be looking at the document themselves. So the accessibility handbook was pretty brief when it came to documents. And for the most part, the parts of my document that were applicable passed the guideline check. So to continue my analysis, I looked at how the document fit into accessibility for the tiered interventions and the universal design for learning guidelines. Since the focus seems to be on the accessibility of Tier 3 students, I tried to focus my analysis there. The document's very lengthy and wordy was the first thing I noticed. This can be difficult for any student with disabilities, but especially those with visual impairments. And especially for those like my son with ADD who would probably get to about here before he was thinking about squirrels and chipmunks and shiny objects. So I looked at how the document fit into accessibility for those Tier 3 ones. It's lengthy, it's wordy, and this can be difficult for people. Struggling to read in general and then being asked to read a document this wordy and lengthy could be frustrating. It could, a kid could give up. And for the visual impaired kids that are having it read to them, sitting listening to that robotic, monotonous tone of the auto reader, it could drone on, especially if they're reading this much. So the one suggestion that I had would be chunking. If maybe just the introduction was presented to the kids and we talked about that and we went over that and worded that and everybody was comfortable with it, and then we went on to the equipment, and then in the procedure, a lot of times I have IEPs in class where they tell me, matching questions are in chunks of 5 or that kind of stuff. So we do a lot of differentiated instruction with chunking. So, maybe we focus today on the first 5 steps and we just focus on those and we only concentrate on those and make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody's with us. And then tomorrow we move on to the next 5 steps and go on from there. So chunking and piecing and presentation document might be a good start. Also using colors, like I mentioned before, to highlight or emphasize sections of the text would be beneficial. If there was an important procedure in here somewhere, I'm digging that mouse thing. I don't know how I'm doing that, but chunking, highlighting colors. If there was a procedure here that was highly important, maybe it could be highlighted in red or something like that to emphasize that part really stands out for us. And it's good contrast again, so it makes it stand out to those visually impaired students. The challenge of the project does provide for Principle 2. Principle 2 basically says that you provide multiple means of expressing understanding by differentiating the ways learners can express what they know. Students are asked to create drawings as well as actual models of the design solutions. For those students who struggle with accessibility, the different routes, the different approaches, I could modify this to have the students either just do the drawings or just do the model, the actual prototypes, or whatever's work, and then that ties in too for the students who have the mobility impairments. Maybe they can do the drawing, but it's hard for them to glue the little cubes together. So you make your differentiation there based on what the students are able to do. I also thought maybe if I looked at the possible modifications, there was one in there about grouping, about peer tutoring and support. And we oftentimes with these projects we group the kids together, we put them in small pairs. So again, here's one student could be reading to the other, or one student could be helping a student with mobility issues to glue their blocks together. So the student with mobility issues could put out their ideas, could explain how they want the model to look, and then the student without the mobility issues could glue it together for them. So multiple means of expressing their understanding of the content. It ties together nicely with the peer tutoring and the grouping here. There isn't much to say again about a standard document like this. The analysis shows that the document meets the basic requirements for accessibility, and the project for which it was created has the potential to meet those students' needs as long as the teacher doing the instruction is aware of the student needs and make necessary accommodations throughout. This document, similar to the PowerPoint I analyzed, would be good for asynchronous delivery, wherein students could use adaptive tech as necessary to help them access the material on their own time, in their own way, whatever they need. But the document is well set up for screen readers and can be easily followed because it is well outlined. Just like I said, that monotonous robotic tone might be a little much, so I would definitely focus on the chunking here. So again, not much to say, but it does hit the basic guidelines for designing a document. It's not all over the place. It's not a mumbled mix of words and stuff like that. So overall a decent one. I think as long as it's put together with a well thought out and a well presented unit of instruction and an actual lesson or presentation of the lesson, then I think we should be okay for the different tiered and the different impairments, the visual, the motor, mobility, and the visual and auditory. So anyway, again, if you have any questions, comment below and let me know. Thanks, guys.